Welcome to the Tuesday stream. I hope everyone's having an awesome Tuesday afternoon or Tuesday morning. Good to have you speaking truth to power and seriously hard of thinking. Thank you, I appreciate that, Astro. Good morning, everybody. So we've got plenty of headlines to go through. Hey, Alio, how's it going? Downloaded Windows 11? Nice. How do you like it? How do you like Windows 11 versus Windows 10? It definitely looks different, right? Oh, not just yet? Gotcha. I've been running for 11 for 2 months and it's okay so far. Yeah, it's been fine for me. I got used to it. It really does feel like more Android or Apple kind of vibe. It's got like a Mac GUI. %64? Almost there? Well, more than halfway at least. Yeah, it kind of has a GUI kind of, it has a Linux vibe. The GUI has a Linux vibe. Yeah. That's a fair statement. That is a fair statement. Personally, I like it. Personally, I like it. Alright, folks, we've got a few things. Never able to get into fully into Linux. Find it clunky in command line intrusion. Yeah, sometimes it could be a bit wonky. Sometimes it could be a bit wonky. Thanks for the shout out, no problem. Alright folks, we got a lot of headlines to go through, so let me... Oops. lots of folks get on with Ubuntu. Ubuntu is pretty good. Ubuntu Linux is easy enough to use. Ubuntu is easy enough to use. I wish streaming was cool with Linux. Yeah. I mean, there is a Linux distribution that is more or less more compatible than it's ever been. I forget the name. It's like a Linux that was designed specifically for gaming, but I think you could probably stream off it, to be quite frank. You may not have all the bells and whistles, but you can certainly stream off it. I'm trying to remember. What distribution of Linux it was, but it's specifically meant to be for gaming. So I think you could probably use that. OBS works with Linux. Yeah. It does. But there's a specific distribution of Linux that will that is more compatible with more, things that you need for streaming. Not everything, but it's certainly more compatible. Pops 1761. I have no idea what it's called. I have no idea what it's called. There is a channel on YouTube that does a lot of streamer stuff. I don't know how to say it. I think they're called Epos Vox. They did a segment, or they did a video on that Linux distribution, which didn't work as well as he thought it was going to work, but it did some things. It did some things, which was pretty cool. Which was pretty cool in and of itself. And it ran some games. $97, you're almost there. Now you gotta do the whole install thing, yeah? Alright folks, we've got quite the amount of headlines to go through, so let's get started, yeah? It really shouldn't be that much of a big deal to move to Windows 11. Kicking things off with a couple of Florida news. Kicking things off in Florida, anti-Semitic flyers seen in Miami Beach, also found in Fort Lauderdale neighborhood. Yeah. You can kind of see the screenshot over here. Every single aspect of the COVID agenda is Jewish. CDC director, CDC deputy director, chief of staff, chief medical officer, director of Washington office COVID czar, COVID senior advisor, NHS secretary. Yeah. Which, by the way, I'm not sure if any of this is actually true. Basically, the idea, of course, is basically interweaving the Jewish question with, of course, COVID conspiracies. It always ends up being the case that, like, 99.9%, of course I'm being facetious or over-exaggerating, but a lot of these conspiracy theories that pop up throughout the years, throughout the, history, have somehow always go back to, like, basically anti-Semitic tropes against Jewish people. For some reason, like, for a very, very, very long time, all of these, like, weird conspiracy theories end up, like, twisting and forming to somehow implicate Jewish people in this. And it's like, why? How does this make sense? Where did you get this information? How did you connect those dots? Like, these people build a unbelievably fantastical world in their heads that everything seems to be some type of Jewish plot. It's the most illogical thing I've ever seen. Windows 11 is installing. Nice. Residents in a Fort Lauderdale neighborhood found anti-Semitic flyers that were spotted in Miami Beach and Surfside this past weekend. Police said Alan Tinter, who lives in Fort Lauderdale's Coral Ridge neighborhood, said he noticed clear packets outside the homes on Sunday. Yesterday morning, while walking the dog, I noticed in the driveway small little packets like sandwich bags. Jesus. Inside those bags, residents found flyers listing inaccurate claims about Jewish people and COVID-19. Telling me everyone at the CDC is Jewish is just not true, and comparing what's going on today with what was said in the protocols used by the... Oh, they're referencing the protocols of... oh my god. Protocols of Zion? Protocols of... shoot, I forget. It's been a while. Protocols... I want to say Protocols of Zion. The Protocols of the Elders of Zion. Gotcha. That's the, that's what they were referencing. Used by the Nazis to justify their attacks on Jewish people as well. Surveillance video showed somebody dropping off the same flyers in a van in Miami Beach early Sunday morning. Miami Beach police say they believe they identified the van, and they believe it's a rental and no longer in the area. What cowards. Imagine... This is just like how bizarre and doublethink these people live in, that they believe something so strongly. They figured out some amazing, fantastical conspiracy theory, and they don't have the conviction. They don't have the conviction to stand by these claims. So much so that this coward rented a van and just left the area. So much so that this coward didn't even use their own car. Hey, yes, we hearken. There's a tendency for conspiracy theories to try to incorporate as much other conspiracies as possible. It's somehow true or something. Yeah, like they figured out some high resolution plot with some very questionable leaps in logic here. And Americans know so little of the rest of the world or history. True. Hey, Thunder, American conservatives are literally just Nazis. I don't think all of them are. That's the thing. This guy certainly is. This guy is literally like doing Nazi shit. I mean, it can't get any more clear than that. Surveillance showed, oh yeah, Miami Beach said they believe they identified the van and believe it's a rental that no longer is in the area. The flyers left the residents in Miami and Surfside concerned for their safety. Yeah, no kidding, but these guys are cowards. I understand the concerns, but these guys are cowards. Dude literally just rented a van, dropped off some Nazi shit, and then just dipped. Gross. It's a hate crime, and I think it's a hate crime. Well, certainly. Even more disturbing, residents say what's written back on the flyers. One thing that they say is to sacrifice people, including Jewish people, sometimes when necessary. I mean, to me, that is hate speech. Yeah, they're advocating for, obviously the genocide. This is a classic Nazi shit. They act like it. I certainly saw a Nazi group around the world and they acted literally like American conservatives. I don't know. It just depends on who you talk to be quite frank. Maybe WW2 is the last time Americans had a wholly conscious connection to the rest of the world. True. Local leaders said a full investigation is currently underway. We want to make it clear that there's no room for this, Miami Beach Mayor Dan Gelber said. It's just horrible and we're not going to sit around and let it happen. True. When you see some Nazi shit, you fucking absolutely make sure that, we make sure that we absolutely have a unified stance against it. It's a bit dismissive to just associate conservatism with Nazis. We're talking about half the country. Yeah, I don't know if it's half the country, but certainly, I don't believe that every single conservative is a Nazi, right? I mean, like, that's just an absolute claim. Sorry, hold on. That's just like an absolute claim, and that's just not the case, right? We're trying to be accurate here. This, however, this person, whoever it was, or if there's several people involved, I have no idea. We have no idea. The police has no idea. This person is absolutely doing Nazi shit. Whatever evidence we can find that allows us to find that crime and that even meets that terrible feeling and sense of hatred in Florida law, we will utilize it. Yeah, like whenever you see like Nazi shit, like, yeah, unified stance against it. Monday night, the Jewish Federation of Broward County issued a statement that reads in part, the Jewish Federation of Broward County condemns in the strongest possible terms the distribution of anti-Semitic propaganda because Broward County is home to the third largest population of Holocaust survivors in the world. What? I didn't know that. I actually didn't know that. We are acutely aware of what happens when hate is allowed to thrive unfettered and unchallenged. True. Tinter said similar flyers were distributed in his neighborhood last spring. What? I didn't even hear about this. For other Coral Ridge residents, there's just no place for it anywhere. True. True. I've never had it hit quite so right at home, right in my driveway. Yeah, like people think that this is like, like this is some like thing that's been gone. Not really. Not really. I think conservatives are about 20% of the population. Anywhere from what I understand, anywhere from like 20 to 35, to even, I think 40% might be a high point, but anywhere from 20 to 35 is the usual, but I could be 100,000% wrong. If all Americans knew what progressives were fighting, the only conservatives would be the ones left in office for the rest of their term. I don't know. I don't know. I can't say that will always be the case then there, but I think a lot of people would come around. I think that certainly a lot of people would come around if we advocate for our positions in the best way possible and put forth good, effective arguments and rhetoric to make people realize why our policies or why our politics would be better, right? How this would improve their lives. Depends on how we define conservative. That's also true. It depends. I've never had it quite so right at home, right in my driveway. I'm not Jewish and I find it offensive. I don't believe in hating people. True. If you receive any one of these flyers and have any information that could help police, call Miami-Dade Crime Stoppers at 305-471-TIPS. if you guys happen to live in this area, or Broward County. For me, conservatives are the people on the low empathy end of the spectrum. But like, no, that conservatism is a political, it's a political ideology, right? That's a political ideology. You see, like, we've got to be able to, like, this is why I hate labels. This is exactly why I hate labels. If you're in Broward County, if you happen to be in Broward County, the phone number is 954-493-TIPS. Remember, you can always remain anonymous, and you may be eligible for a reward up to $5,000. Hey, that's cool. That's cool. If you happen to live in South Florida, and you wanna, or you know of a helping hand, because there's definitely no room for Nazi shit here. There's definitely no room for Nazi shit here or anywhere. I honestly wasn't even aware of the last spring. It seems to be like this person. I wonder if it's even the same person. I know that this is kind of like speculation, but like there was last spring. So within the same time frame of a couple of months, 3 months difference. This absolute coward goes into South Florida neighborhoods, South Beach, Miami Beach, and Fort Lauderdale. Okay, Miami Beach and Surfside. Miami Beach, Surfside, and Fort Lauderdale. Drops off some Nazi shit, and then just pieces out like a coward. I'm proposing a correlation. Yeah, that's, well, you may find correlations between different things, but like when you say, oh, I think a conservative is I think conservatism means low empathy. I don't know. I would prefer no Nazism. If you could do that, that would be great. Yeah, I prefer a zero I prefer a zero Nazi neighborhood, yes. Yes. Jesus Christ. It's 2022. It's 2022 and we're still seeing garbage from the Protocols of Elder of Zion. It's 2022 and we're still seeing, like, this has been demonstrably debunked time and time again. We've had like federal documents saying how this isn't true and things like that. Like, all of this is just nonsense. And yet 2022, we're having people believe the most asinine conspiracy theories. That don't even make sense. That don't even make sense. Like, 5 seconds on Google can probably debunk this, right? 5 seconds on Google can probably debunk this. People usually use Google for confirmation, not falsification. Right, confirmation bias. Confirmation bias. Who is the CDC deputy director? Dr. Heem? Oh man, I keep making that mistake. Heem. Thank you so much for the massive raid. I appreciate that. A massive raid coming in hot with 82 viewers. How's it going, everybody? Yeah, people usually use Google for confirmation, not falsification. Yeah, because if you Google what you want, you're gonna get the answers that you want to look for. Folks, if you don't already know, please make sure you follow twitch.tv/Heem, as he is the fast. Well, I think he already is the fastest growing beard on Twitch. It's already done, right? He already grew it. That's how fast it is. Please make sure you check them out. Thank you so much for the follow, NRDI. Looking back at the competition. True. How's it going, Heem? Thank you so much for the raid. I appreciate that. If you guys don't know who we are A Difficult Truth. We do news and politics Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. Eastern Time. Join us for Saturday Catterday at noon Eastern Time. Listen, it's okay. I will forgive. I let the chicken nugget discourse go, okay? I let the chicken nugget discourse go, alright? I let it go. I let it go. What are we watching? Nazi shit. In South Florida. If you can believe it. If you can believe it. Hey Freddy Drongo, how's it going? So to catch everybody up, apparently in South Florida there was a coward who rented a van and started distributing these anti-Semitic pamphlets all over the place. Apparently, it's the same guy who distributed these pamphlets in Miami Beach and Surfside, which is in South Florida. Now has done it in a Fort Lauderdale neighborhood, basically making the just ridiculous claim that obviously you can see in the pamphlet that apparently every single aspect of the COVID agenda is of course, Jewish conspiracy or Jewish plot, and attempted to make the argument that all of these folks are Jewish, which is not true. I mean, like 5 seconds on Google, and you'll start seeing this break apart because it's an obvious fake conspiracy. And they made even a reference to the Protocol of the Elders of Zion, which is what the Nazis used back in the day, has been debunked over 9,000 times. I mean, it's 2022, folks. Come on. It's 2022. You have the culmination of the world's information in your hands. You have the culmination, the gathering of the world's information in your hands, And this is what you come up with? Didn't didn't Destiny just move to South Florida? Coincidence? Didn't he move to Miami Beach too? Huh. Didn't he didn't he move to Miami Beach as well? There you go. Nice meme sourcing. Anyways, the TLDR is that apparently in 2022 we still have cowards distributing this. Like this guy, as I was saying earlier, this guy doesn't even have the conviction to stand by what he believes in, because he didn't even use his own car. He rented out a van and just distributed these things. If you do happen to somehow know or live in South Florida or in anywhere of these areas, and you see something, don't be afraid to say something. There's the phone number down there for Miami-Dade and for Broward County. Israel massively backed Pfizer in vaccination development. I'm not sure. I don't know about that. Is the guy in the pic him, or he's just showing it? He's just showing it. Unfortunately, if I play this clip, it's actually going to cause a DMCA, believe it or not. If I show like news clips from mainstream like media sources, they actually DMCA you for this, if you can believe it. So that's the screenshot we have. It's like they just took like the most tangentially related items and created an entire conspiracy. Like the deputy director of the CDC is not Jewish. She's not Jewish, just to be clear. What's with the pentagram? Because apparently to them, obviously Jewish people are, I don't know, not of God or something? I don't know what the implication is here, that they're evil, I guess. I guess the implication that this guy is trying to do is to associate the Star of David with the pentagram, which, if you guys know the history of the pentagram, it has nothing to do with Satanism. I don't know. It's just none of it makes sense, Admiral. So I quite honestly, I don't know. None of it makes sense, and none of it has to make sense. I can't count points on a star. True. Well, it looks if I twist it this way and I squint my eyes, I don't know. Geometry is hard. True. I had to take it in summer school. The reality is, it doesn't have to make sense. Pyro, isn't the pentagram meant to be inverted for it to be bad? I have no idea. I have no idea. The conspiracy theories always have to find something out of nothing. Right, it's all tangential stuff that, like, because the CDC director comes from a Jewish family, they may have constructed this whole entire thing out of it. Like, I don't know. I don't even know how they made like this assumption, because all it is one giant assumption, right? Because look at the claim. The claim here is every single aspect of the COVID agenda. Like, okay, well, what is the COVID agenda? Can you explain that to me? No, it's all vague generalities. I'm guessing it's some Q shit. They're always on about Satanists. Yeah, that's true. A lot of QAnon conspiracies always end up. I actually mentioned this I actually mentioned this earlier, that a lot of these conspiracy theories for a very long time always kind of like push in the direction that it's like a Jewish plot or something like that. It always ends up being about Jewish people. Like, it's the most weird, bizarre thing. It just doesn't make any sense. It never made any sense. Even the QAnon shit, even the QAnon stuff, it moves into that direction of anti-Semitic tropes or anti-Semitic conspiracies. It's a shame this guy's taking vaccination pandemic handling success stories and trying to destroy it for a racist vendetta. Yeah, well. I don't get it. Yeah, it doesn't make sense then there, because it never made sense, because it's all based on nothing. It has no basis in reality, with like with the exception of like tangentially like related facts, like I don't know, Rochelle Walensky was born of a Jewish family. Boom, that's it. That's the that's the connection. Like, wait, but the CDC deputy director isn't Jewish, and I don't think this person's Jewish either. What? How is this a Jewish plot? What is the COVID agenda, anyways? So again, it just doesn't make any sense. The moment you start, like, it falls apart like paper, like a house of cards. It doesn't make any sense. Why can't they make conspiracy theories about TV shows if they're bored? True. Wouldn't that be a more productive, uh, a healthy, a healthy way, instead of like going to like going to Nazi shit? I don't get it. I don't get it. But it makes sense to these people. Yeah, sure. It makes sense to them because they live in like some alternate reality. They're the main. They are in main character mode, and they think that they're the special person who unlocked the secrets. True. Being into every conspiracy sounds fun. That's right. That's right. They figured out somehow. They figured out somehow, pointing some weird, tangential things together. Come on, kitty. You want to join us? There we go. This guy's trying to make the argument that the NHS secretary. Wait. Who is the current NHS secretary? This isn't even the right person. They don't even have the right person. Okay. I don't think they even have the right person for the NHS secretary. My message got held back by AutoMod. Yeah, we don't like free speech around here. I don't even see it. There we go. They get something out of thinking they know other people don't. Yeah, it's the most bizarre thing. Oh, I see what they're trying to say. Okay. I looked up the Health and Human Services guy. The guy's a Hispanic dude. He's not Jewish. Jesus Christ. His name is Javier Becerra. Okay? Holy yikes, dude. His name is Javier Becerra. I think it's compensation for being the dumb kid growing up. Now you know the truth and yeah. You somehow figured it out. Yep. Main character syndrome, yeah. This guy alone figured out the entire COVID agenda. Which, by the way, is never going to be expanded upon. I have no idea what they mean by a COVID agenda. But anyways, yep. South Florida. And like what I didn't know is that this happened last spring. And unfortunately, what's even I think this is obviously, it sounds like very intentional, because I just learned this too. Broward County is home to the third largest population of Holocaust survivors in the world. Not in the US. Not in the US, in the world. So absolutely disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. Racists seem to not be able to tell the difference between Hispanics and people who follow Judaism. Yeah, and like that doesn't these are, first of all, these are separate things. And like second of all, yeah, this guy is further beyond. This guy is like doing some Nazi shit, right? Anyways, F this guy. I hope they find him, or if there's several of them, I don't know. We know that for sure the guy, it seems to be the same guy who did it in Miami Beach and Surfside. Hey Eric, how's it going? It seems to me like it's the same guy. What a disgusting coward. Further proof that Nazis can't even stand for their own garbage. Bunch of cowards. Hey Lost Sue, how's it going? Worse after seeing that shit? Yeah, in 2022, man. In 2022, we still have this. Folks, if you see anybody with a little diamond next to them, please go check them out. Please go follow and support them. head on over to twitch.tv/heme, twitch.tv/sourcing support, twitch.tv/lawsuit. Yeah, I know, Irked. I know. Is this just a Florida hate stream? No, it just happens to be that this kind of like happens to flow. This is really about COVID more than Florida, to be honest. Irked, gifting a tier 1 sub to Lawsuit. Thank you so much, I appreciate that. This is more about COVID than it is about Florida, to be quite frank. Yeah, it's just because, like, I happen to live here. I happen to live here, so yeah. Florida shuts down all monoclonal antibody treatment sites after FDA decision to limit the use of certain treatments not proven effective against Omicron. Florida is closing its monoclonal antibody treatment sites, health officials announced late Monday, citing the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, the FDA, decision to limit the use of certain versions of the treatment that were found less effective against the now dominant Omicron variant of the virus. Unfortunately, as a result of this abrupt decision made by the federal government, all monoclonal antibody sites will be closed until further notice. Wait, it's not an abrupt decision. We've had studies, and I've mentioned this before. We've had studies pointing in the direction that this new variant, these monoclonal antibody treatments, are not as effective. The craziest people in America come from the Bronx and all from Florida. Hey, spread it forward. I think that story was about a woman asking about. Holy yikes. Florida man is just a thing because Florida's super public with their arrest records? Huh, I didn't know that. I thought it was just like a meme that the media just ran with. Maybe Florida deserves to be underwater due to climate change? Whoa, 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 whoa. Get me out of here first. New subvariant. Yes, I heard about that, Heat. How's it going, by the way? Howdy, howdy. Unfortunately, as a result of this abrupt decision made by the federal government, all monoclonal antibody sites will be closed until further notice. More than 2,000 appointments for the treatment were canceled, according to the statement from Governor Ron DeSantis. FDA considers limiting authorization. Oh, this is a related article, yes. Earlier Monday, the FDA said it was revising authorizations for monoclonal antibody treatments made by Eli Lilly and Regeneron, or the actual drug name, I guess, because the data showed that they're highly unlikely to be active against the Omicron variant. Yeah, we've had preliminary studies. We've had preliminary studies. I think it was like last month, showing that this Omicron variant was more resistant than certainly than its original form, its original COVID, to these antibody treatments, more so now we're pretty much in the camp of it's not as effective. I saw a study saying that it's up to 50% less effective. That's not good. That's indeed what Kal-El just said. Indeed. You might want to start saving up and getting ready. Yeah, that's the idea. We're going to try to rescue you before we sink the state. True. Yeah, just put all the oil execs on it and evacuate everyone else in Roblox. Howdy, howdy. It'll be in Vietnam moment. We'll bring around a helicopter for you. True. That works. True. Alright, goodbye, kitty. Omicron accounted for more than 99% of cases in the US as of January. Jesus Christ. That was fast. Holy yikes. That's actually unnervingly fast. 99% of cases are from the Omicron variant, the FDA said, noting that restricting the authorization for treatments that aren't effective against the variant avoids exposing patients to side effects which can potentially be serious. Some people who have received monoclonal antibody treatments report rash, diarrhea, nausea, and dizziness after the treatment. A small percentage of patients, that was a bit of a Freudian slip there, a small percentage of payments. Get it? Because we have such a great system. Thank you for the follow. I appreciate that. I like pie. Then I can't. Sorry. Brings about a helicopter. Please. Please. Rescue me and my family. Is your name Carlos? No. Then I can't. Sorry. A small percentage of patients had severe allergic reactions. The FDA's announcement came after... Wait a minute. Hold on. You're telling me? Yes, that's a difficult... Operation ADT grab. Operation... a difficult operation. That's the name. Thank you for the follow, I like pie. I've just about had it with humans. Well... You're not alone. You're not alone. You're not alone, Eric. Did you talk about the BA2 Omicron variant? No, he made like a a comment about it. I have heard that there's like a sub-variant, which is basically what, like Omicron 2.0, I guess? Omicron 2.0, 1.5? I don't know. We still are, I think, on the early stages of that. Cats are better? True. True. So you're telling me that, remember, Joe Brogan said that he needed to throw the kitchen sink at a, obviously, what he considers a mild cold, but he needed to throw the kitchen sink at it because it was a mild cold to him, but also I need to throw the kitchen sink on it. He also mentioned that he has used monoclonal antibody treatment, which first of all are under emergency authorization at the time. This, I assume that what he likely had was the Delta variant at the time. But yeah, monoclonal antibody, which is under the Emergency Authorization Act, same as the vaccine, has also side effects that have been reported and known and correlated with said monoclonal antibodies, like rashes, diarrhea, nausea, dizziness, and even severe allergic reactions in a small percentage of patients. But yet he's concerned about the vaccine side effects. Huh. Seems a bit dishonest. Seems a bit dishonest. I had COVID after Christmas, and every couple of days at 4 a.m. I wake up trying to breathe for like an hour. Yikes. Operation a difficult trail. True. True. Urging them against using these treatments with Omicron, a source familiar with the call said DeSantis has had monoclonal antibodies as a cornerstone of his response to the surge of coronavirus cases, often pushing the treatment more vigorously than vaccines. So much so that wasn't there a a difficult transfer? Wasn't there a guy who was suspended or fired because he dared to encourage his staff for vaccination. He didn't force anybody. He didn't mandate anything. He just encouraged and spoke about vaccination for his own staff. And he was taken off the board, whatever board he was on. I think he was a superintendent, if I'm correct. I forget. But yeah, like I don't understand why you would have a system that reacts to a situation when you have the tools to mitigate and prevent the situation. Because now you've put yourself in a position where the tools, the reactive tools, aren't working. They aren't working, my dude. Last summer, he introduced new clinics where individuals could receive the treatment at the onset of symptoms or exposure to someone with COVID. Earlier this month, amid a record-breaking surge of COVID cases, DeSantis assailed the Biden administration for pausing shipments of the monoclonal antibodies and his push for the treatments to remain widely available. Just one problem, my dude. It's not working for this one. On January 7th, DeSantis said he'd secure 15,000 doses of Regeneron's antibody treatment for the state, despite the pharmaceutical company saying in December, we've known this for a month, which is exactly what I said. Despite pharmaceutical companies saying in December that it has diminished potency against Omicron, DeSantis slammed the FDA's announcement in a statement on Monday, saying the Biden administration has forced trained medical professionals to choose between treating their patients or breaking the law. What are you talking about? GlaxoSmithKline's monoclonal antibody, the sotrovimab, is the only version of the treatment that appears to be working against the Omicron. So use those. Like, what is the impetus of using Regeneron that's not working? Oh, wait, doesn't he have ties to the company that made with Regeneron? Hold on, before I start talking smack. Ha. Oh man, folks. I'm sorry you're not feeling well. I assume we're all getting it eventually if we haven't already. Yeah, I assumed that I got it. I assumed that I had it. But, you know, because we had such a great system in place, I wasn't even able to get testing because, you know, you would have to either be very lucky or take time off work. She turned 5 a couple of weeks after the kid vax came out. It's been a ride. Oh yeah, 100%. We got him. Oh yeah. DeSantis top donor invests in COVID drug governor promotes. Huh. That's very interesting. Yeah, I need that mission accomplished thing. That's very interesting. Florida governor who has been criticized for opposing mask mandates and vaccine passports. This is August of last year. 4 months ago? 5 months ago? Antibody treatments in which top donor's company has invested millions of dollars. Wow, that's such a... Gee golly, that's such a coincidence. Your top donor has investments in Regeneron. Erked gifting a tier 1 sub to Heat. Thank you so much, I appreciate that. Oh, that's so weird. Oh man, your top donor just happens to have investments in Regeneron, and you just, oh man, such a coincidence that this is what you've been shilling this entire time. despite the fact that there's numerous evidence, there's copious amounts of evidence to suggest that it actually is not working anymore for the Omicron variant. We should switch to this one. Whatever this is, GlaxoSmithKline Sotrovimab. Oh man, I'm never going to be able to pronounce this correctly. Instead of switching to this, instead of switching to that, which has evidence behind it that works, you get out there on Twitter and make press conferences about how big mad you are that the Biden administration is cutting off supplies of a treatment that just doesn't work anymore because your big donor has investments in it. But I'm sure, you know, it's all just coincidence. I'm sure that this is just a happy coincidence. You know, that just things just happen to, I don't know, maybe it's just me. It just happens to be that, you know, these things aligned in an unimaginable circumstance. Or donating to a mod, is this lobbying in Twitch chat? How is this legal? I mean, I didn't see anything. But if it happens to be that Irk wants something, and it happens, guys, just think of it as a coincidence, okay? Never mind the fact that Irk has been donating to mods or gifting subs to mods, okay? Never mind that. It's just gonna be a happy, coincidence that I happen to acquiesce to Irk's request. ADT has to act like Pelosi now. Donating to, yes, it is lobbying. Yeah, it's just a free market, dude. That's right. Are Republican voters incapable of looking this stuff up, or do they not care? Well, as long as it owns the libs. This is America, damn it. At the time, the Assistant Secretary of Preparedness and Response and the FDA paused allocations of the Eli Lilly and Regeneron monoclonal antibodies, but said 300,000 additional doses of the Sotrovimab would be available in January, which is this month. So basically, we should be switching over to this one, whatever this treatment is. I think they're all they're monoclonal antibody treatments. We should be switching to this one, because this one works. But Ron DeSantis is too busy taking care of his top donor to care, unfortunately. And I'm in America, so therefore money is speech. True. That's why you're being put at the front of the line. That's right. That's how it works. Very good. Very, very, very good. Awesome. Good job. Wait, you're gonna slice bagels for the 99%? What? How kind of you, Kal-El. Justices to weigh limits on the reach of Clean Water Act. Let me translate that for you. The Supreme Court is weighing the options of clean water, of your clean water. The Supreme Court on Monday said it will consider reining in federal regulations of private property under the nation's main anti-water pollution law, the Clean Water Act. I think I pretty much sounded the alarm on this one in one of my older videos. I think that this is the case culminating in the Supreme Court right now. The justices agreed to hear a business-backed appeal from Chantel and Michael Sackett, who have been wanting to build a home close to Priest Lake in Idaho for 15 years and won an earlier round in their legal fight at the Supreme Court. The EPA ordered work on the Sackett's property halted in 2007, determining that part of it was a wetlands that could not be distributed without a permit. That could not be disturbed without a permit. There we go. Yeah, I think we actually did cover this when it was happening. This is unbelievable to me. The new course case, to be argued in the fall, tests the reach of the Clean Water Act beyond rivers, lakes, and streams. Under an opinion written by Justice Anthony Kennedy in 2006, regulators can block development on properties far from waterways as long as they prove a significant connection to waterways. Yeah, which isn't really hard to think about. Which isn't really hard if you think about it. I just like off the top of my head in Florida, you've got a massive problem with agriculture runoff from Big Sugar that flows all the way down the state. It flows all the way down to the state, and it affects all of the coast and wetlands here. All that big the algae blooms that are wreaking havoc on this very, very important ecosystem. Yeah, that's all from up the sugar crops. It doesn't matter if I'm on a private website and a privately run chat. You can't stop me from saying anything because of my free speech, Drew. There's nothing I can do. Kennedy said that the wetlands must significantly affect the chemical, physical, and biological integrity of the nearby navigable waters to come under the Clean Water Act. Yeah, but it does. Like anything that you do. Okay, so like ecological systems aren't as like black and white, okay? There's a lot of things that come into play here. And if you have like agriculture runoff or I don't know, construction that may cause a problem down the line, it's you can't just say that, oh, well, we're gonna have to like make a black and white decision here. No, it's not. I learned recently that most sugar is beet sugar and not cane sugar. Huh. I didn't know that. No other justice joined Kennedy's writing, and 4 conservatives wrote that they would allow regulation only if there is a continuous surface connection from the wetlands to the lake to the river or stream. There's no such connection on the Sackett property, so therefore they shouldn't be able to do it, right? Pocket Jello, thank you for the follow. Huh. Among the 4 were Chief Justice John Roberts and Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito. They now have 3 colleagues on the right, Neil Gorsuch, Amy Coney Barrett, and Brett Kavanaugh, who took Kennedy's seat when he retired in 2018. John Devine, Director of Federal Water Policy at the National Resource Defense Council, said the court had agreed to hear the case that could gut our ability to protect wetlands and other waters. It's a threat to the clean water of our communities that our communities depend on for drinking, swimming, fishing, and other uses. You know, just water. The it's just water, the small thing that, you know, we need to live. Yeah. It's a small thing, just a small thing like water. No big deal. Only in America is this not instantly a unanimous decision to protect people, or is there other countries that do this? Oh, I'm sure there are. Dendera, I'm sure there are. In 2005, the Sacketts paid $23,000 for a 6.63 acre lot near the lake. They decided to start building a modest 3-bedroom house in 2007. They had filled part of the property with rocks and soil in preparation for construction when federal officials showed up and ordered a halt in the work. The case has bounced around the courts for more than a decade. The Federal Appeals Court in San Francisco upheld the EPA's determination in August, finding that the agency was right to conclude that swampy area on the Sackett's property were 300 feet from the lake and 30 feet from unnamed waterway that flows into the lake. Yeah. Sackett's own consultant had similarly advised them years ago that their property contains wetlands, and yet they still... So this was a conscious decision. So this was like a conscious decision, because their own consultant said that there was wetlands here. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce and the National Association of Home Builders are supporting the Sacketts and the Supreme Court. Yeah, I'm sure they are. Separately, in 2015, Michael Sackett pleaded guilty to coercion and enticement of an... Ooh. Huh. Yikes. What is my political view 2020? Well, I have to actually get my eyes checked, but I'm pretty sure it's 2020. I've got 2020 vision, right? Maybe? I don't know, sometimes things are a bit blurry. Yeah, so the implication of this is that it's gonna roll back the ability for the federal government, the EPA, to protect waterways, wetlands, rivers. This is deeply disturbing. This is deeply disturbing and should worry everybody. This right here should get people angry. I mean, this is like the most basic of basic things. Water. The most basic of things. Water shouldn't be up for debate. The most basic thing, such as water, shouldn't be up for debate. Beet sugar has a high melting point. So far, cakes and cookies, it doesn't dissolve and leaves a gritty texture if it isn't mixed well with liquid first. Huh. What does that mean? I'm making a joke. I'm very like I'm very left leaning. The most basic thing. Someone's forgetting about air, bro. True. Forgot about air. Hold my beer. Yikes. Yeah, that's... Yikes. Yikes is, yikes indeed. True. Hold my beer. Fundamental transformation of global economy needed for net zero. Alright, let's see how we're gonna be BS'd into this. Reaching net zero climate emissions by 2050 will require a fundamental transformation of the global economy, according to a report by McKinsey, one of the world's most influential consulting firms. Are they going to do anything about it? God, no. And as we've discovered, net zero by 2050 is is just quite frankly a meme. It is a way to obfuscate the necessity and a way to downplay the severity of the climate crisis. That's basically what it is. To say that we're gonna reach net zero by 2050, which, by the way, that's too late. In case we like leaning isn't far enough left, or I don't know. I think if I lean too much, I might actually fall off my chair, so I can't really do it. You know what I mean? Like if I lean this way too much, and then I'm just gonna fall off my chair. I gotta be able to sit, right? Net zero is not a fucking thing. Well, it's not anymore. It's a term that a lot of companies and politicians will use to hide behind the realities of climate of the climate crisis. That's what it is. It's really so first of all, hold on, stop. Can you define either of those terms? Let's start right there. I'm so far left that I'm laying down. You can either judge by a label or you can engage in a sincere way. Right, so first of all, define what is communism and socialism. Because, like, first of all, 99% of the people, I'm being very facetious, The majority of people don't even understand what those words mean. We need capitalism and less regulation. Wrong. The exact opposite. Anyways, net zero is a greenwash terminology that, so LMAO, that's not definitions. Damn. That's not a definition. Sad. So net zero is a meme term that politicians and corporations use to hide behind and obfuscate the idea of what needs to be done with the climate crisis. Require fundamental transformation of the global economy. According to a report by McKinsey, one of the world's most influential consulting firms, it estimates 9.2 trillion will be needed to be invested every year for decades to limit the global temperature to 1.5 degrees and end the climate emergency. The sum is 40% increase on current investment levels and equivalent to half of global corporate profits. Yeah, so, in other words, the longer we wait, the more expensive it's going to get to deal with this. Okay, the longer we wait, the more expensive, and we're basically locking ourselves in this circle. Is net zero greenwashing? At this point, I think we can safely say that. Tendera, I think we can safely say the idea of net zero has been just co-opted and used as a way of as a shield. And it's like, whenever you see this in media, especially in media, whenever you see this, you can almost assume that the overwhelming amount of times that it's just a shield. I mean, we're talking about one of the most influential consulting firms. Yeah. The report warns that the economic transformation will affect every country and every sector, with those most reliant on fossil fuel burning experiences the most change. McKinsey, which advises many governments, that's weird, and large companies also say the transition will be front-loaded, for example, with cost of electricity rising before falling later. I don't want to discuss anything because I have no idea what I'm talking about, and therefore I don't want to show my own ignorance, so I'm just gonna put the burden of proof on my opponent. However, the report saying reaching net zero is vital to avoid the most catastrophic impacts of global warming, which would harm billions of people. True. And that many low-carbon... No, you pretty much are, because you're not even willing to engage with the conversation at all. You don't even know what these terms mean. You don't even want to give your opinion about what these mean to you. I believe in innovation and liberty. That's interesting. So do we. It's almost like the fundamental ideas of being human are the same. However, you have this twisted route of going about it where you think somehow capitalism is going to facilitate that. Innovation is more prevalent in capitalism? Wrong. I don't think so. So basically, if you take a look at how things work, especially when it comes to like the market, you start to realize that companies, capitalists, don't actually like competition. Large companies don't like competition. Capitalists who are already at the top do not like competition and have no incentive to innovate past what they already do, right? So that's why you keep seeing the regurgitated iPhones over and over again. The regurgitated iPhones that are almost copycats of themselves, with the exception of like a tiny adjustment here. There's no incentive due to companies having a monopoly. So you agree capitalism has problems. Thank you. which harms millions of people, and that low many carbon investments are opportunities for economic growth and would lead to lower costs and efficient economy. It also says the transformation becomes more expensive the longer action is delayed. 9.2 trillion is a very big number, big enough for anyone to pay attention to, but nobody cares because as long as they keep making profits, as long as it's convenient for them to hide the truth, to obfuscate, they're not going to change their mind. The consultancy, said John Wotzel, the McKinsey Global Institute, the consultant's in-house think tank, and the author of the report, but it's not impossible. It's not an impossible number. It's not like we haven't made transformations in other ways, such as a global shift to urban living, the economic transformation from an economy that did not include the cost of environmental and social damage that one does. According to Wotzel, there will only be a sustainable economy. We won't have any other kind. Well, we're not moving in that direction. Monopolies are formed by the government? Wrong. Monopolies and well, capitalism itself is on the cornerstone built by the government. You need that. You realize that, right? In order for capitalism to work, you need the government. Who makes regulations? Who establishes the ability for a business to exist? Are you okay? I don't think this chatter is being genuine. No, this is the Lolbertarian thought process. Hey, Chai Bureaucrat, how's it going? I know you are, because you're making the classic. I've seen these arguments over 9,000 times. You've made these classic like thought process is the same. They're like NPCs. They have the same dialogue tree. They have the same limited dialogue tree. Because our arguments are logical. Just because sometimes they're... Okay, so a logical argument, when you structure it, sometimes it could be... what is the word? Sound, but then when you actually make it... When you follow it to its conclusion, it actually just breaks apart. The monopolies should be nationalized under workers so that they can control as actors of regulatory competition to the rest of the market. Well... It's like you've already conceded the fact that like capitalism can't exist without the government, and you've already conceded the fact that like monopolies are bad. How do you think they come to be? Do you think that this is just some magical thing? No, capitalists, by definition, move towards that. Right, thank you, Erkt. You probably put it better than I could. Logically sound arguments mean nothing when you're working on false premises. True. You can act logically and still be wrong. Yeah, exactly, Turtle Combat. That's exactly my my argument. Anyways. The report said front-loaded transformation raises a critical question of who will pay and whether the higher costs of electricity, steel, and cement are passed on to people or whether these low incomes are protected by governments. The goal of the report is to assess the scale of economic transition required to reach net zero. It shouldn't be net zero, so the right terminology that we need to be using is hard zero. I forget what they called it. Real zero, I think is the term that they used. Real zero. Is what they is the now rhetoric that's being used by a lot of climate scientists or ecological people. Real zero, because net zero has just basically become co-opted. Has been co-opted and greenwashed into making it basically nothing. So the real term is real zero. Yes, zero emissions, real zero, assuming action is taken quickly, which, last meme. That concludes achieving real zero would mean a fundamental transformation of the world economy. Damn! And what have I been talking about? In order for us to address the climate crisis, there has to be a movement, complete movement, off of fossil fuels in as many ways as possible. as quickly as possible in whatever ways we can. Yes, we are going to have to take a look at the economic aspect of it because we cannot keep going this way. We cannot keep going this way. We're going the wrong way. We're going backwards. We can't keep this infinite perpetuating growth that's just in fantasy land. This is unsustainable. Oh, you know what, VPatsma? Call the majority report. How about that? Do me a favor. I am usually at work when it happens, but just call into the majority report. That it estimates that the investment in energy, transportation, building industry, and agriculture would need to rise by 3.5 trillion, in addition of 1 trillion of today's spending to, from switching to high carbon to low carbon goods such as electric cars, heat pumps, as a proportional of global GDP. Total investment would require 6.8 rising to as much 8.8 between 2026 and 2030 before falling. Right, which I think in the IPCC report, no, they're not trolls. They're just libertarians, guys. They're just literally libertarians. These are the same talking points that I hear, the same regurgitated talking points, the same memes that are that have the same 5 dialogue tree setups. Do you have Discord? Yeah, I have a Discord, but I don't do debates on this channel. But you all have your own interpretations that always end up being the same thing. It is boring to answer the same question over and over again. That's why I gave my spiel in the beginning. Like, if you can't even make definitions, if you can't even define what you're arguing against, how could you be against it? Wait. How could you argue against socialism or communism if you can't even make a definition of it? How could I debate capitalism if I don't even know what it means? How do I know that I like capitalism or hate capitalism or even agree or disagree or have a neutral opinion if I have absolutely no idea what it is? How could I even make an argument for capitalism against capitalism, for communism against communism? How could I even make these statements without even attempting to realize what I'm talking about? Jesus Christ. Critical thinking, folks. It's a lost art, I'm telling you. I was a libertarian for a while, then I accepted that I live in a society. Streamer won't stop his new show to debate me, Sage. True. That's usually how it goes, though, Kal-El. I've seen this story so many times where, like edgelord libertarians, like, become, real cognizant of the idea that, there's actually people that are, there's actually other people here. That's so weird. We all go through edgy libertarian phases. True. You guys did your damage control with higher gas prices, inflation, forced CRT mandates, and the being on the brink of World War III. I want Trump back. I want Trump back. Bring him back. We're getting him back. Well, hey, look, listen. At least we're acknowledging the fact that he lost, okay? So that's progress. That's progress. You guys did your damage control? Well, yeah, I mean, the economic stabilizers had to be done. Although, if you take a real closer look, there's so many things wrong with that statement. True. Because we all think we have it figured out. Humble yourself and realize there was an essential authority to settle disputes. We wouldn't dueling it out like the Wild West every over simple trades. True. Yeah, like, this person in YouTube chat is, like, assuming that this is, like a Democratic stronghold or something. Like, there's, like, we're all just, like, Democratic Party stands here. I don't know. It's such incredible that like Biden defeated Trump. I really didn't see that happening. Oh wait, what? Really? Anyways, real quick before we move on. D.G. Go and do some homework and see what mandates are in place and where. After Trump won the first time, anything was possible. Yeah, but like Trump defeated Trump. To be quite frank, Kal-El. So, as I've said before, Biden didn't necessarily win. It's more like people didn't want Trump. It's more like Trump lost, right? Because to my understanding, to my feel of the public perception, is that Biden wasn't like super inspiring. We didn't go out there because we wanted to vote for Biden because he generated so much energy. A lot of it was to get rid of Trump, at least for the presidential side. A lot of people got out to vote to get rid of Trump. That was it. The election was rigged. You think Biden has 85 million votes? You go do your homework. Let me know when you find how and when and where the election was rigged. Go find out. Just go do your homework, all right? Go do your homework. Find out where the election was rigged. Who rigged it? How? In all 50 states? That's kind of weird. No, they're not trolls. They legitimately believe this, just like Derek Metcalf. It was the most secure election ever. True, actually. That is the truest statement you've said in this channel. Shows be annoying today. I'm seriously napping right now. That is the truest statement you've made in this entire channel. Give it up, bro. You lost. Okay? Right, it was somehow rigged. Antifa. Yeah. So, believe it or not, and this is true, believe it or not, populations go up and shit. Yeah, this is true. Yeah, the believe it or not, people actually believe this with no evidence. And like, this is, yeah, exactly. Like somehow, magically, the down ballot races were fine on the same ballot that the presidential election was, but somehow just the section of the presidential ballot was rigged. Like, it doesn't, none of it makes sense. Y'all are living in an alternate reality, and I hope you guys come back to Earth one day. Anyways, back to like legitimate stuff that we need to talk about. Investments in clean infrastructure will generate jobs, growth, and huge savings, particularly by eliminating the need to buy ruinously expensive fossil fuels. True. And will yield much bigger returns when taking into account the avoided loss of lives, livelihood from air pollution, and climate change. The insurance from Swiss Re recently estimated that the damage caused by a 2.6 rise in global temperatures by 2050 would reduce GDP by 14%. So, like, it's not even an economic argument at this point, right? It's just not sustainable. It's not feasible. Yeah, I know. Kids these days with their facts. Kids these days with their facts. Kids these days with their facts and their ability to look shit up. Instead of just blindly believing a random con man, a professional, lifelong con man. Kids these days. While immediate tax on our head may seem daunting, human ingenuity can ultimately solve the net zero equation, just as it solved other seemingly intractable problems over the 10,000 years. Okay, this is a huge cope. No. The key issue is whether the world can muster the requisite boldness and resolve. The problem is we're not even moving in that direction. We've got the Biden administration creating more fossil fuel permits. We've got other countries around the world creating coal plants. We've got European nations decommissioning nuclear plants in favor of coal. We're going backwards. Yeah, I know, Kal-El. I know. Yeah, prepare yourselves. Did you vote last time? Yes, I did. What are you talking about? It's a embarrassing fact, but I did. If it does, the report says the rewards would far exceed the avoidance of climate impacts alone, because countries would have to work together and then would be better positioned to address the age-old geopolitical issues. Oh, that's interesting. Here's actually a good point. Because we're all of us are, quite frankly, in this together. It doesn't matter how powerful your country is. Climate change does not care, and this is actually a very good point. It creates a scenario where we have to work together. We have to work together and attempt to basically, we have to put our differences aside and gather the resources that we have and move to fix this. This is a very hopeful message, we believe, for people to realize that there's a need and a capacity to create greater global collaboration. There is definitely a need. There's definitely a capacity. But unfortunately, I'm not seeing any movement towards that direction, which really, really disturbs me. We've got climate change denial all over the place. We've got the media consistently downplaying or trying to use one of the largest investment firms in an attempt to say, it's okay, we got this net zero by 2050. If we just wait and we just make up these fantastical things that will come, they will come. The technology is coming. The technology is coming. It's happening. Don't worry. You just gotta hang tight. Sit tight and assess. Sit tight and assess. Not unless you're trying to hurt America. What the fuck does that mean? Thank you for the follow, Turtle Combat. The honest government ad for net zero. What if... Yeah, exactly. Exactly. If we promise to plant enough trees, we can get the net zero on our carbon balance sheets. Yeah, or if we finagle some of the numbers, then it's actually our companies doing phenomenal work in achieving net zero by offsetting emissions and not counting the emissions that are too inconvenient for us. Sorry. Remember, folks, numbers don't lie, but I can make them say what I want them to say. Here's really rich. Sound of Hope, thank you for the follow. One thing the good Biden did in his presidency? We just mentioned one. Are you incapable of reading, or? We're in trouble. Envoy urges faster action on climate goals. The world is not on a good track to meet a global goal to avoid the worst impacts of climate change, and we must intensify our efforts to move away from fossil fuels this decade. John Kerry, the U.S. Special Envoy on Climate Change, said on Monday as the U.S. prepares to expand permits for coal and fossil fuels. Never mind that. See, this is the problem. Because John Kerry gets to sit on his... Hey everyone, happy to meet you. Hey, thank you for hanging out here. Appreciate that. John Kerry gets to sit on his soapbox here and gets to lecture the international community about how we are not meeting global goals to avoid the worst impacts of climate change. Except one tiny problem. One just small problem. How can you sit on your soapbox and tell everybody that we're not meeting goals while the US itself is going in the opposite direction? except the US is going in the exact opposite direction. Biden regime brought the culture war? BS, get real. Says the party that's all about culture war issues because they have nothing else to put forth on the table? Okay, that's cool. We're in trouble. I hope everyone understands that. Told an event called Building Momentum to UN COP27, hosted by the US Chamber of Commerce and officials from Egypt, the host of the next UN Climate Summit. Oh, cool. So we get another COP Fest where we can talk about how beautiful our promises are going to be and all these promises and goals and blah 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 that's going to be done. Yeah. I mean, he's not wrong. We are in trouble. He's not wrong. We're in trouble. And the problem is that we can't say that without taking any action ourselves, right? What leg do we have to stand on? What leg does the United States have to stand on the international platform to tell people that you have to meet your goals? But we're nowhere near that. How much do you think the US people will take in the short-term change and impact of moving as needed on climate change? Nothing. I don't support. I don't think we're gonna, I don't think we're gonna get it. We're not gonna get it. I don't think we're gonna get it. We're gonna get there. People in a large, broad sense do not understand the bigger picture that's happening. I'm very sad for the world. Yeah, well, so am I. Cute animal video. Plandemic? Nah. Listen. Go have like go have a seat, my friend. We don't have time for this nonsense. COP27. Here's the commitments we're planning to make at COP28. No, we're not doing this. That's enough. That's enough nonsense for one day. That's enough nonsense. So yes, here we have John Kerry standing on his soapbox about how the U.S. About how he's lecturing everybody else when the U.S. is doing just about fuck all. Kerry said actions countries have taken do not mean the severity of the problem, even though a large amount of good came out of COP26. What good exactly? What good exactly? And you're lecturing other countries about stuff that you're not doing yourself. I just saw DeSantis and his buddy were making money on Regeneron through planning and minimizing of vaccination. Yes, but here's the kicker. You know how I believe that, Dustin? Because we went over that article earlier today. You know why I believe that? Because first of all, the corporation who has investments in Regeneron is the top donor for Ron DeSantis. And it just so happens to be that even though there's significant evidence to suggest that Regeneron is failing to treat COVID, to treat the Omicron variant, he's still pushing that despite there being other monoclonal antibody treatments available. He's still pushing it. He's still pushing it, and he's really big mad that the federal government has decided to say no more because it's not working. That's how I know that that's probably true. Good vibes? Yeah, that's the idea here, Pocket Jello. That's the idea here. TLDR, more sophistry. Believe it or not, this is actually a good article from Reason. Believe it or not. Why the Supreme Court decision and NFIB OSHA may be even worse news for climate regulation than you thought. So basically, as we know, the Supreme Court basically shot down the mandates with OSHA's ability to do this, and that's going to have broader consequences for the future regulatory efforts to control greenhouse gases, which obviously turned this into a problem with our ability to get ourselves off fossil fuels. Because if this can be applied and superimposed on regulatory efforts to control greenhouse gases, then that's super effed. That's GG, folks. That's not good. That's not good. Indeed, the major question doctrine as applied by the current court seems tailor-made. In other words, seems very convenient. Very just fits like a glove for West Virginia versus EPA. But NFIB versus OSHA may have broader consequences for future regulatory efforts to control greenhouse gases. So that's not good. That's not good. Let's go back down here. What does this have to do with climate change regulation? If the message of NFIB versus OSHA is that the court should be sure that agencies are exercising the powers given by Congress for the purpose Congress gave them, and I think we talked about this earlier too, then not only is the court likely to conclude the EPA's authority to use Section 3 to reduce greenhouse gas emissions from the power sector is limited. It also is likely to be suspicious of EPA efforts to repurpose other pre-existing authorities to regulate air pollution to achieve greenhouse gas reductions. Nice. I mean, things just keep getting better and better, don't they, folks? Force the military to go 100% renewable, then we might see some progress. Oof. Good luck with that one. Absent new legislation, the more direct way the EPA has to reduce GHG is to tighten existing regulations on coal plants and other substantial sources of GHG emissions. Tightening the National Ambient Air Quality Standard for particulate matter, for example, would not only reduce soot and fine particles in the air, it would also put a squeeze on large sources of GHG, greenhouse gas emissions. Reducing those emissions has a co-benefit. The problem for EPA would be if the courts see such efforts as workaround as they did with the OSHA. Yeah. I do not see these concerns as necessarily fatal to further EPA climate efforts, but is another obstacle with the agency that will have to contend with, as if there was not enough already. All the more reason it would be a good thing for Congress to enact a carbon tax. That's where I disagree. That's where I disagree. But, I think that the problems that this presents are very real. And should this be superimposed with to the EPA and take away the EPA's ability to regulate, then what is the point? At this point, like, if that's true, then what is the point of regulatory bodies at that point, right? It's going to start dismantling the ideas of regulations themselves, which I think is kind of the goal, right? I mean, but what are the consequences to that? Severe. We saw what happened when there was no regulation for rivers, water supplies, and things like that. We saw what happened. Innovation and implementation of renewables on a large scale would be a lot more possible if the military was held to it. True, but that would be... Nope, we're going to see the worst of climate change effects before we ever see a change, and by then it will be too late. Right. By then it'll be too late. Before we get into this, let's find a cute animal video.
We had no idea what we were getting.
This is the world's first reusable cotton swab.
What?
It removes up to 5 times more
Jesus.
excess earwax.
That's gross. That's wild. That's wild, Astro.
He wants to get inside. How about this?
I don't think nobody should.
This is a full 3 months of food without needing any refrigeration or special storage.
Why? That is definitely a cute animal. There's 4 inches of snow outside my house right now. Oof. So how about some news about California redwood forest given back to the natives? Hey, that's cool. Alright, we've got 2 more articles and see if we can finish this over here. Large Permian Basin methane leaks are causing as much climate pollution as 500,000 cars. A survey of oil and gas facilities in Texas and New Mexico revealed 30 so-called super emitters which are leaking as much heat-trapping pollution as roughly 500,000 cars, according to a new report from Carbon Mapper Environmental Defense Fund. The findings are a result of 3 years of aerial surveys that have spotted natural gas leaking from wells, pipelines, compressor stations, and processing facilities across the Permian Basin. Natural gas is comprised mainly of methane, which traps around 80 times as much heat as carbon dioxide in the short term. The 30 super emitters identified in the report count just for 0.001% of the region's oil and gas infrastructure, and yet they release around 100 metric tons of methane each year. Gas leaks are notable for both their outsized impact on climate and for being a relatively inexpensive problem to solve. Plugging leaks in oil and gas infrastructure allows firms to conserve valuable natural gas, which they can sell later, enabling them to recoup some or all repair costs. Fixing leaks at the 30 Permian Basin super emitters would save $26 million worth of natural gas each year, according to the report. Yeah. That's hilarious then there. Last year, the EPA proposed its first rule to cut methane emissions from existing oil and gas sites, which will help the US meet its international climate goals. The US has joined more than 100 countries in pledging to cut methane emissions by 30% by 2030. 30%? Okay. That's... The magnitude of emissions coming from a handful of methane sources, one of top oil and gas producing regions, illustrates the opportunity to make significant near-term progress towards stated methane reduction goals of the US and other countries and companies around the world. In this decisive decade for reducing greenhouse gas emissions, every molecule matters, and the fact that some facilities are persistently leaking methane for years without detection or repair highlights the urgent need for comprehensive and transparent methane monitoring. But that would be a little bit too convenient because people would realize just how destructive this industry is. I think that's why they hide it, because it doesn't make sense. If it's cheaper for them to fix these things, I think the real problem here is that if we continue to monitor and be transparent about just how much they're emitting and just how polluting they are, it may start to sway public opinion. I think that's the real issue. They'd rather lose money. They'd rather lose money than to have a system in place that actually monitors and is more transparent. That's what it sounds like to me. Cuisine art? Where? Oh, look at that. Yeah, I guess I am. Hey, here's some cool news. The Doomsday Glacier may soon trigger a dramatic sea level rise. The ice shelf that it kept in place could fail within 5 years. A huge glacier in Antarctica is at risk of sliding into the ocean. If it does, that would trigger a disastrous rise in sea level across the globe. Dwight's Glacier is one of the biggest in Antarctica. Until now, an ice shelf, a floating slab of ice, has held this West Antarctica glacier from the ocean. But new research suggests this ice shelf could collapse within 3 to 5 years. An international research team shared its findings in December 13 at the American Geophysical Union fall meeting. It took place in New Orleans. Ted Scambos was part of that team. Dwight's plant spans 120 kilometers, 75 miles across. It is roughly the size of Florida, for context. Jesus. It's huge. Scambos studies glaciers at the Cooperative Institute for Research Environmental Sciences. The organization is based in Boulder, Colorado. If the whole glacier would fall into the ocean, sea levels would rise by 65 centimeters or 26 inches. That poses the world's biggest threat to sea levels in the next 80 years. The eastern third of the Twites is currently propped up by a floating ice shelf. It's an extension of the glacier, one that juts out into the sea. The underbelly of that ice is lodged against an underwater mountain some 50 kilometers offshore. That sticking point has helped hold the whole mass of ice in place. But new data suggests that brace won't hold for much longer. Yeah. Those data come from sensors placed beneath and around the ice shelf for the last 2 years. Scambos and his colleagues has found that warm ocean waters are eating away at the ice from below. The ice shelf is losing mass, and that's causing it to retreat inland. Eventually, it will retreat completely behind the underwater mountain that's pinning it in place. Meanwhile, warm water is widening fractures in the ice. These cracks are swiftly shaking through the ice like cracks in a car windshield. As a result, the ice shelf is shattering and weakening. This double whammy of melting and shattering is pushing the ice forward towards collapse. The whole thing could give way in as little as 3 to 5 years. The collapse of this ice shelf will result in a direct increase in sea level rise pretty rapidly. It's a bit unsettling. Yeah, so that's nice. Yeah, I saw that, Eric. Lose money now for long-term gains. I can only understand in case like this, not like climate. Right. Here we are. But the Thwaites collapse isn't the only worry. Its fall would destabilize other West Antarctic glaciers that would drag more ice into the ocean, raising sea levels even higher. That makes the Thwaites the most important place to study for near-term sea level rise. Scambo said, and that's why in 2018, researchers from the US and UK started studying the glacier in depth. The team planted instruments atop, within, and below the glacier. They also placed sensors in the ocean near it. Data from these instruments alerted the researchers to the ice shelf's near collapse. This data has also led to other discoveries too. For instance, a second team of scientists has gotten the first look at ocean and melting conditions right at the glacier's grounding zone. This zone is where the land-based glacier begins to jut out to become a floating ice shelf. New data also shows how the rise and fall of ocean tides can speed up the melting. The tides do this by pumping warm water beneath the ice. These new findings promise to help scientists better forecast Thwaites' future. We're watching a world that's going to do things we haven't really seen before. They're happening because we're pushing on the climate extremely rapidly with carbon dioxide emissions. It's daunting, true. Yeah, that's also a good point, Astro. Yeah, so this is the situation. Nice meme. So if you guys haven't watched Don't Look Up and don't want any spoilers, this is the time. Okay? This is a review analysis of Don't Look Up. So if you guys are worried about spoilers and things like that, spoiler alert. Okay? Spoiler alert. So we're going in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
A good example of this is COP26, the largest international climate conference since the Paris Climate Accord that took place just in November. I did a video on that, so if you haven't heard of it, please check it out. Basically, Leo got into the conference, no problem. Sorry, I'm gonna be burping now because I've had a drink. But Leo got into the conference no problem, but meanwhile Indigenous groups, climate youth activists, and other experts could not get into the conference. So that really shows priorities. You know what also distracts the people from an important issue? Technology. And that brings me into the businessman. Some might argue that Peter from Bash Cellular is meant to represent a particular person or a couple people, but to me, he actually represents several different things. So for starters, I think that Bash Cellular's phone represents how technology gives us an escape from worrying about bigger problems in the world. The introduction to Bash was a phone presentation that showed the phone being able to sense people's moods and provide cute animal videos when the person is stressed. Technology and media is being designed better and better to grab our attention and keep it for longer. But that can cause us to miss things going on in the real world, like climate change or an asteroid destroying the world. Peter himself projects that false narrative that we can solve the problem with unproven technology without having to change the way that we do things at all. And while this is a very appealing idea, it's not realistic. Case in point at the end of the movie, but like the politicians, he doesn't care because he has an escape plan anyways. By the way, did you notice at the end of the movie who were in those cryo chambers? Yeah, there was one person representing big money, another person representing big oil, and another person representing big lobbying. That's very telling. Speaking of big oil, in this way, he reminds me of fossil fuel companies because he donates a lot of money to politicians to get himself in the room at important moments. And then he tries to fix his own environmental disasters by trying to get the minerals from the comet because he's depleting the minerals on Earth. And then he provides a solution that can be applied last minute to allow him to keep going on his business as usual. Fossil fuel companies' version of that technology includes like carbon capture technology, geoengineering, and greenwashing natural gas and blue hydrogen. In reality, most of that technology either hasn't been proven to work on the scale necessary or it isn't safe or as helpful as advertised. That's not to say that all technology is bad.
True.
Actually, the vast majority of the technology that we need to solve climate change is already in the consumer phase. We just need to utilize it and recognize that it's not just our technology, but our constant need for economic growth that needs to change. Because we can't expect to escape to Mars or other parts of space before climate change wrecks our economic system, like some billionaires have dreamed of doing. I think that space travel is cool and all, but the only way we can further evolve our species into space level is to tackle our problems at home first, which means that we need to talk about them. And that leads me into the most personal section for me, the media. So if you didn't know, I have a background in environmental journalism.
That's right.
Well, yes, environmental science and journalism. So this part's interesting, especially to me. So there were 2 main examples of the media presented in the movie. Well, I guess 3 if you count the shitty clout-chasing boyfriend of Kate, who I think represents tabloids that you see when you're checking out the grocery store. In the case of Don't Look Up, both examples of the media do a bad job of helping scientists relay the gravity of their news, and that is sadly pretty accurate to how climate change has been treated up until very recently. The New York Herald, which is meant to represent traditional written journalism, starts off well by being interested in the story and double-checking the validity of the information with an independent scientist. But that's where it all starts going downhill, because they quickly start treating their scientists as objects by telling them to get media training and arguing with themselves like Kate and Randall aren't even in the room. The objectification continues behind the scenes of the talk show as stylists tell Kate and Randall to change outfits and even change Randall's beard. Their appearance matters more than the information that they are telling people. Journalists are taught to humanize a story, and in order to do so, the people in the story have to be palatable to the public. But this doesn't work well when it comes to science stories, because that could sometimes attach an idea like a planet-killing event to an individual like Kate and Randall. So if one of them, like Kate, doesn't perform or connect well enough to the public, the idea gets dismissed, which is really problematic when the idea is literally whether or not the humanity will survive. It was also all too familiar to see a science subject get put at the end of a news segment, because that still happens all the time with climate stories. And with a lack of scientific literacy, media members often don't ask the right questions, also portrayed by the hosts by just kind of diving into space topics and forgetting that there was a point to the story. For some reason, we journalists can cover the most depressing topics, but when it comes to planetary collapse, we go silent. And I think it's important to remember that we are human too, and no one wants to talk about a problem that big. But the media in general has moved so far away from the topic that even talk show hosts in real life barely touch it. Like, there had to be a special night around COP26 when people like Stephen Colbert and Trevor Noah mentioned the climate crisis. I get it, it's hard to make it funny, hence why Don't Look Up exists. But like, COVID's a depressing topic, the collapse of democracy is a depressing topic, and these people cover it all the time. So what makes climate change different? My hypothesis about this is that's because people don't talk about it on a regular basis. So every time someone does speak on it, there needs to be a serious element to it. It isn't in the public's vernacular enough to add humor to it, because when people do, it ends up looking like what it looked like on Don't Look Up when the talk show hosts were trying to lighten it up for the first time Kate and Randall announced their findings to the public. It looked really out of touch. You need to talk about it seriously the first several times it's brought up, so that people get a general understanding about the issue and the science behind it. And then you can start adding little humor bits in there, because then it will just keep the topic in the public mind in general. The only time the scientists talk about the issue seriously at all in the whole movie is in the New York Herald article, which ends up being buried in the news cycle because 1, there was celebrity drama that covered up the topic, 2, Kate freaked out and became a meme, and 3, the White House countered their claims. And that's another thing. Why was it that when the journalists first heard the story, including the part where the president told them to sit tight and assess, and they knew that the president pretended they didn't even have a meeting, that they took it and they were happy to demonize the government. But then when the story didn't do well and the White House came out against the statement, then the editors dropped the continuation of the story. I can't honestly say why they did that past it being no longer a moneymaker anymore.
Right.
This is the main part of the movie where I actually missed the whole nuance part at first because it seemed so anti-Watergate of them to do. But then I realized I need to look at it from the context of how journalists in the past have talked about climate change, and that made it way more accurate. Again, I think it has to do with a lack of scientific literacy in the newsroom. I think it's getting better now, but before it made the journalists uncomfortable countering the head of NASA like they would if it was a political situation, you know? And knowing that the government wanted to bury the issue meant that there wouldn't be any breaking news to encourage follow-up stories. And that's another thing. Inaction isn't news, so it doesn't inspire news coverage. The journalism world is so focused on breaking news that larger systemic issues can often be forgotten in the news cycle. They basically make one cover story and then they never get talked about again. And this is something we need to think about in the journalism community. Like, what do we do when the most important stories to humanity just aren't catchy enough? I think this then goes back to how news organizations make money. If they didn't care about ratings and views so much, they wouldn't be constantly fighting over each other to produce the next exaggerated headline. And they also wouldn't mess up facts because they wouldn't have to move so fast. But let's go back to the talk show host, specifically Bree, who's played by Cate Blanchett, because she starts to have an affair with Randall, which at first, honestly, is the usual trope of a female journalist sleeping with her sources. But in this case, I think they were trying to make a point of Randall being in bed with the media, so I'll give them a pass on that. Anyways, in the middle of their affair, we learned that Bree got like 3 master's degrees, and she's now been constantly around Randall. Like, obviously, she believes what he's saying. But as soon as she goes back on air, she asks Randall, so is there a comet or isn't there? As if there's 2 sides of the argument. This reminds me of how for decades climate change was treated as a 50-50 issue. One climate scientist versus one climate denialist in the name of telling all sides of the story. But this is just disingenuous because it doesn't accurately show the weight of each of the sides. I remember Bill Nye did a great job illustrating the absurdity in one of his little segments.
Nye, the science guy who believes in man-made global warming.
Yeah, that's right. More often than not, it's Bill Nye, the science guy, versus some dude. And when you look at the screen, it's 50-50, which is inherently misleading. If there has to be a debate about the reality of climate change, and there doesn't, then there is only one mathematically fair way to do it. Good evening. Joining me tonight, a climate change denier and, naturally, Bill Nye science guy. In the interest of mathematical balance, I'm going to bring out 2 people who agree with you, climate skeptic, and Bill Nye, I'm also going to bring out 96 other scientists. It's a little unwieldy, but this is the only way you can actually have a representative discussion.
Even though Bree knew that the comet was coming, she still played it off as if there was an unresolved issue, literally months into the issue. Objectivity, to the extent of being uninformed, doesn't help create public understanding and confidence around an issue. Finally, I want to look at a few last parts of the film and end with my final thoughts about the movie. The movie was filled with moments of nature and innocent humanity between segments. I also noticed moments of bad things for the environment, like flying a private jet, plates full of beef, and bundles of plastic water bottles with a polar bear as their logo. These scenes honestly made me feel more emotionally charged throughout the movie. To be honest, the movie overall was really hard to watch because I knew going into it what message Adam McKay was going to try to evoke. So I kept seeing those messages throughout the movie. And I kept wondering throughout the movie also if he's actually going to do it, if he's actually going to blow up the planet at the end. Because there's been a lot of movies like this that will end up with a quick last-minute fix that saves the world. But not this time. And I appreciated that because we can't just rely on things to fix themselves at the last minute in real life. Towards the beginning, when President Orlean orders the launch of the rockets, I thought, well, this isn't realistic to climate change because we haven't gone anywhere near close to launching rockets at our metaphorical issue. But then when the rockets were turned around for monetary gain, that matched perfectly with, with what's happened with the climate crisis. And I think the most impactful scene in the movie for me was when the comet first hits and you can see an indigenous man ceremoniously dancing with a drum overlooking balls of fire falling into the forest. That one I literally started crying on because I can't help but think that that's exactly how indigenous people, hell, that's what environmentalists feel watching the Amazon burn, watching the earth change out from underneath us. It's honestly heart-wrenching, and I finished the movie overall with my head in my hands, emotionally drained, not even able to laugh at the part where the president gets eaten by a bird creature on another planet. I don't think I'll watch the movie again because it's just a lot for me, but I thought the movie was really well done. Going forward, I think more directors playing with this idea of putting climate commentary into their work will be great. If a film is set in the future, there's basically no excuse not to talk about climate change. But also, I would love to see some portrayals of what future could look like. I want to see some movies in like solar punk setting, which if you don't know, check it out. Or worlds not based on overconsumption. Like, let's...
True. Alright folks, unfortunately that is all the time I have today. Thank you guys so much for joining. I appreciate Heem with the massive raid. Thank you Ark for the support. Thank you for all the new follows. I appreciate you guys. I didn't realize the time. Didn't realize that time. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Heat. Thank you, Spread It Forward. Thank you guys for joining. As always, please stay safe. Please take care of each other. Avion, I hope to see you guys in the next one. See ya. Yeah, time gets away from me too. Thank you, Astro. Appreciate that. It said there's some cyberpunk magic in the future. True. Thank you, Pocket Jello. Appreciate that. Shy Bureaucrat. Alright, folks. Hang tight. Alright, folks, hang tight. We're heading out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. See ya. Thank you, Eric. Appreciate ya.